Okay, this is Huck Finn Development of Moral Consciousness, Part 2. Part 2. Um, okay, so yeah, I'll pick up with a point I was making in Part 1, which is that Huck isn't just going through this change of moral consciousness for himself. He's providing a blueprint for other Americans to do the same. And we look at the change that Huck is undergoing as being kind of just call it symbolic. Symbolic of the process that all America was undergoing in these years and still is and still has to. Okay, so if you look over on page 140, you'll see a little bit more evidence of this dramatic change that Huck is undergoing. 140, this is chapter 15. Chapter 15. This is the section, just to orient you, this is the section where Huck and Jim escape the raft, and Huck starts to try to convince that Jim just imagined the whole thing. He's playing a mean trick on him because, from Huck's point of view, well, he's just a slave. I can make fun of him and do these mean things to him, and because that's just what I get to do as a white kid, So he's acting on that. But watch what takes place here. Okay, so you see, all right, so Huck is coming back, right? And then Jim says, this is on 140, about a third of the way down. Good gracious, is that you, Huck? And you ain't dead? You ain't drowned? You's back again? It's too good to be true, honey. It's too good for true. Let me look at you. Let me feel of you. No, you ain't dead. You's back again. Live and sound, just the same old Huck. The same old Huck, thanks to goodness. So Jim is just overjoyed, just opening up his heart, just overjoyed to see his friend is safe and sound. And so instead of Huck receiving that love with gratitude and humility, okay, Huck is thinking, oh, he's made himself vulnerable to me, so now I can play a trick on him. Not very nice, right? So this is what he does. Starts trying to convince him it's all in Jim's head. He just made it all up. How? Why, ain't you been talking about my coming back and all this stuff as if I've gone away? Huck Finn, you look at me in the eye. Ain't you been gone away? Gone away? Why, what in the nation do you mean? I ain't gone anywheres. Where would I go? Just playing a trick on him. And it goes on, and we see that Jim starts to be fooled. And then so Huck is just saying, well, hang it, you did dream it, because there ain't any of it that happened. So he's just lying, just trying to, you just dreamed, though. You made the whole thing up, none of it happened. And then so, Huck, for a variety of reasons, has underestimated Jim. One way, of course, we already said, he thinks, great, he's just a slave, so I can play a trick on him. The other is he's assuming that Jim is too dumb, and he can be fooled this badly. And he was wrong on both counts. Okay, so if you look then, down at the bottom of that page, 141, Jim has figured it out that Huck has been playing a trick on him. And look at his response now, okay? Jim looked at the trash, just rubbish on the raft. Jim looked at the trash, then he looked at me and back at the trash again. He had got the dream fixed so strong in his head that he couldn't seem to shake it loose and get the facts back into its place again right away. But when he did get things straightened around, he looked at me steady, without even smiling, and says, "When I got all wore out with work and with calling for you and went to sleep, my heart was most broke because you was lost, and I didn't care no more what become of me and the raft. And when I wake up and find you back again, all safe and sound, the tears come and I could have got down on my knees and kiss your foot. I so thankful. And all you was thinking about was how you could make a fool of old Jim with a lie. That truck is trash. And trash is what people is that put dirts on the head of their friends and makes them ashamed." Wow, right from Jim. Okay, I mean, that's piercing. That's piercing. Then I got up slow and walked to the wigwam and went in there without saying anything but that. But that was enough. It made me feel so mean I could almost kissed his foot to get him to take it back. So 15 minutes have passed now, as it says, 15 minutes. So again, in that time, there's this inner transformation of attitude, of conscience, of perspective, of character. Okay, Huck's character is growing through this. His perception of right and wrong is growing through this. Okay. It was 15 minutes before I could work myself up to go and humble myself to a black man. But I done it. I weren't ever sorry for it afterwards, neither. How common do you think it was for a white person to apologize to a black person in these years? You see what I'm getting at? Huck, as a white boy, is apologizing to a black man, not because anyone made him do it, because he knew in his heart of hearts, he knew in his conscience that what he did was wrong. It doesn't matter what the slaveocracy is telling him, doesn't matter what the Confederacy is telling him, doesn't matter. He knows in his heart of hearts what matters, and he knows what's right and wrong. Now he does, okay? I didn't do him no more mean tricks, and I would have done that one, and I wouldn't have done that one if I'd have knowed it would make him feel that way, okay? And what is remarkable about this book is that it does such a good job of showing what that transformation has to be like for white America. Huck, when he apologized to Jim, he had to give something up. He had to give something up. I'll say it again. What he had to give up on was the idea that simply by virtue of the white skin that he had, that doesn't give him any special rights. And he has to let that go. He has to release that, okay? Whatever privilege that comes with having white skin, I'm not going to claim that privilege anymore. Jim is a human being. He's not a slave that I get to have my fun with, and that's it. Now, to make that sacrifice, to recognize that sense of superiority just because of the color of his skin, he's got to let go of that. That is not easy, okay? It's not easy for people like Huck. It hasn't been easy for white America. And as we see, it's still not easy for white America. It's still a struggle, okay? And again, this is why Huck's message is so, so vital today for us. You know, just because of the color of our skin, it doesn't matter, right? What matters is what's in our heart and our capacity to truly love each other, all right? And that's what Huck gets in return. He gives up this notion of being privileged because he's white, but look at what he gets. Okay? I want you to think about that for a second. Think about what he gets. He gets this incredible friendship of Jim. Okay? You cannot put money on someone being so happy that you are just who you are and you're alive that Jim wants to start crying. Okay? You can't put a price tag on something like that. That's what Jim is getting in return. The love, the real love of a true friend, okay? Not that fake BS that comes with, oh, well, I'm white and I can do what I want. You know, you maybe get a crazy ego trip from that, but there's nothing substantial in that. And that is the message that Jim has learned in this passage, okay? All right, it's important. This is a major turning point for Huck right here. Yeah, gee, you can even see, look at this, all right. It's all highlighted in orange, underlined, all check marks and stuff like that, okay? Yeah, you can even see, so my marginalia is so profound here. I write, Huck changing. So anyway, that's how I read it, all right? So do with that what you will. Okay, so there's this. Okay, I have time for one more here. Look over on page 256. Okay, this is towards the end of the story now, where Huck is, again, just back and forth, wrestling with conscience. What's right and wrong? What is moral? What is the right thing to do, just so I can feel right inside and I can sleep at night? And so this is the passage where he's had enough and he's thinking, okay, finally, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to turn Jim in. And he writes that letter to Miss Watson. 256. This is chapter 31. Yeah, I think this is right about where I had you all leave off. Okay. All right, this is several pages, 4 pages in. Yeah, 4 pages into that chapter. Okay, so this is how he's handling this now. At last I had an idea, and I says, I'll go and write the letter, and then see if I can pray. Why, it was astonishing. The way I felt light as a feather, right straight off, and my troubles all gone. So I got a piece of paper and a pencil, all glad and excited, and sat down and wrote. Miss Watson, your slave Jim is down here 2 miles below Pikesville, and Mr. Phelps has got him, and he will give him up for the reward if you send. Huck Finn. I felt good and all washed clean of sin for the first time, and I had ever felt so in my life, and I knowed I could pray now. So things finally he's being a good boy, doing what's right, turning in Jim, which is what he always should have done. He's obeying the law. He's being good to Miss Watson. And so we live happily ever after, right? No. Based on everything that he's been going through, there's another voice in his head that's saying, no, that's not how you treat Jim. Jim is your friend. He's your heart of hearts. You don't do that to friends. Okay, so 2 contrasting codes of morality. And this is how Huck sorts it out. And this is another wonderful passage in the novel. But I didn't do it straight off, but laid the paper down and sat there thinking. thinking how good it was. All this happened so. Uh-oh, he's thinking. That's trouble, right? When you start thinking, when Huck starts thinking, right? And again, this is what's wonderful about Huck. He's a little boy, young boy, old boy, teenager. He's willing to think. He's willing to use his mind. He's willing to use his heart to make sense of what's right and wrong. He's not just going along with prescribed notions that everyone around him is telling him to do. He's learning to trust something much deeper within himself and see what's happening here. Thinking, okay, and how near I come to being lost and going to hell. Yeah, well, you help property leave, that's wrong, and you're going to go to hell. So helping slaves, this is how messed up standard morality is. Helping a human being, a fellow mortal like Jim escape is thievery, and you're going to go to hell for that. What? Yeah, so, okay. Okay, where are we? And went on thinking, and got to thinking about our trip down the river, and I see Jim before me. I love this passage. All the time in the day and the nighttime, sometimes moonlight, sometimes storms, and we floating along, talking and singing and laughing. But somehow I couldn't strike no places to harden me against him, but only the other kind. I'd see him standing my watch on top of his instead of calling me, so I could go on sleeping, and see him how glad he was when I come back out of the fog, and when I come to him again in the swamp, up there where the feud was and such like times, and he would always call me honey and pet me and do everything he could think of for me, and how good he always was. And at last I struck the time I saved him by telling the men we had smallpox. So yeah, they had their own coronavirus that they had to figure out how to negotiate. And Huck used it to his advantage, trying to convince people that they had smallpox when they didn't. And right, see? So yeah, so in literature, we learn ways to get along with pandemics like this. And he was so grateful, and I said I was the best friend old Jim ever had in the world, and the only one he's got now. And when I happened to look around and then I happened to look around and see that paper where he wrote the letter that he's going to turn him in, I was in a close place. I took it up, held it in my hand. I was a trembling, because I got to decide forever betwixt two things, and I knowed it. I studied a minute, sort of holding my breath, and then says to myself, all right then, I'll go to hell. Just tears that paper up, right? All right. There's a little bit of drama there for you. Tore it up. I'm going to go to hell. But what's really great about this passage is that we know as readers, and Twain knows that we as readers know that Huck's not going to go to hell for this. But Huck didn't. And that's what makes the passage so charming. But at the same time, though, in the eyes of the society that Huck was operating in, that he was being bad. He was doing what was wrong. And there were church leaders who said that, yes, it was stealing. This is somebody's property. And it's a violation of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not steal. Okay? So Huck really, really is terrified. And that's genuine. His fear about going to hell, being held to account by, secular authorities, courts and judges and all that stuff. But also by heavenly authority too. He didn't know that what he was doing really was right, but it felt right in his heart. And we know now that that's the only place that it had to feel right. Twain is trying to tell us that we follow our conscience from within. Everything else doesn't matter. This is our guide. This moral compass is our guide. And that is what is going to get us through. So, and this is the legacy that Huck has handed down to us to this day. So, these are a few passages that I think are key in this book. Please do, as you respond to my little talk here, if you're having questions or additional comments, maybe I'm saying something you don't agree or whatever, go ahead and post that online. Post it online, and then we can have a, carry on the discussion. If you really like what I have to say, send me some peanut M&Ms, okay? I'm not getting enough of those with this quarantine thing going on. So, if you want to do something nice for Dr. Richardson, send him some peanut M&Ms, okay? Okay, have a good day, and I'll be talking to you soon. Bye-bye.